In this video, we're going to be taking a look at addition with unlike denominators. Now, it is important to know that you have to watch this video at school where you have the access to fraction strips. If you are not at school, you do not need to watch this video. Okay, now the essential question that you're going to take a look at is how can you use models to add fractions that have different denominators. You will need to turn your book to page 243. And also get out your fraction strips, and you will also need to get out your math journal and a pencil. So let's take a look at this first one. First problem on page 243, and we can see that the problem is Hillary is making a tote bag for her friend. She uses 1/2 yard of blue fabric and 1/2 yard of red fabric. How much fabric does Hillary use? Okay, so you will need your fraction strips with you. Okay, now what we are finding is 1/2 plus 1/4. Okay, so first of all, we have one hole here, and what we're going to do, we're going to place the 1/2 strip representing our 1/2 and the 1/4 strip. Okay, so we're adding 1/2 plus 1/4. Okay, it is important that your fraction strips are right next to each other. Now what we will do to find the answer is we want to try the largest fraction strip. We can see here 1/2, and we'll put, looks like we might even need 2 1/2s, but you can see they do not equal. Okay, so we will go to the next largest fraction strip. Okay, so we have 1/4. It's very important that everything lines up. Okay, plus another 1/4, that's 2/4. Plus another 1/4, you can see that 3 1/4 line up exactly underneath that 1/2 plus 1/4. Okay, so we can see that 1/2 plus 1/4 then equals 3/4. Okay, so Hillary uses 3/4 yards or yard of fabric. Okay, now we have underneath the draw conclusions, describe how you would determine what fraction strips all with the same denominator would fit exactly under 1/2 plus 1/3. What are they? Okay, and I have the answer right underneath here, and I do want you to copy that down. The process is try the largest fraction strips first to see if they will fit exactly under 1/2 and 1/3. Try smaller strips until the denominator whose strips fit exactly is found, which would equal 5 1/6 strips. Okay, now let's take a look at that make connections section under page 244. It says sometimes the sum of two fractions is greater than 1 when adding fractions. With unlike denominators, you can use the one whole strip to determine if the sum is greater than 1 or less than 1. Okay, so we're using fraction strips to solve 3/5 plus 1/2. Now, what we start out first of all is our one fraction strip, and we need to take 3 1/5. 1, 2. You need to do this with me. 3 1/5. And then from here, you need to add a 1/2 right underneath it as well. Now you can see that adding these together is greater than 1. Why is it greater than 1? How do we know? We can see from our fraction strips. Okay, now the next thing we need to do, we need to find fraction strips all with the same denominator that are equivalent to 3/5 and 1/2. Place the fraction strips under the sum and then write the equivalent fractions. Okay, so we can see 3/5. Okay, first of all, if we're going to try this, start out with the 1/2 there. Adding both of those, you can see, is not going to work. Okay, then we need to take the next largest. Now the 1/5 will not work there. It will go exactly underneath all of them. Okay, but you can see that if we were to take the 1/2, let me just show you here, that'll be greater than everything here. Okay, so it's going off the screen completely. And then we would try the 1/5. We know that's going to work with my 3/5, but let's just try it on that 1/2. you can see that will not work. It's going to be greater than that 1/2. So we're left with our 1/10. Now taking a look at this, we can see that the 1/10 will work. 3/5 equals, we can see 6/10. 1/2 we can see equals 5/10. Okay, now we can see add the fractions with like denominators. Use the one whole strip to rename the sum in simplest form. Okay, so we can see that 3/5 plus 1/2. Okay, we can just rewrite this 6/10 plus 5/10. All right, so from here we know 6/10 and 5/10, there are 11 total tenths here. So 11/10. All right, now what we can do is we can take a look at that 11/10, and we can see that if we take one whole fraction strip, which we do not have here, but what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take my 1/2 here, because I know 2/2 does equal a whole there. So 1/2 and 1/2, that is one whole right there. And then I can see I have one left over, representing 1 and 1/10 for my answer. Okay, so I'm going to do this top one for you. We have 1/2, we can see right here, plus 3/8, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to show you how to go through the process here. You start out with the greatest fraction strip, which is the 1/2 here. Put them together, you can see that's not going to work. So we'll try the next greatest one. So we have fourths, 1, 2, 3, 4 will not line up, so now we need to go to our eighths. Okay, I'll start putting these underneath my 1/2 strip. So 1, 2, it's important to line these up exactly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now that's a good sign because I know the other ones are eighths and they're obviously going to line up. Okay, so I see that my 1/2 equals 4/8. And then obviously my 3/8, I'll line these up underneath here still so I can see what it looks like. 1, 2, 3. So obviously my 3/8 equals 3/8. So 4/8 plus 3/8. You can see with my fraction strips I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7/8. Whenever we add fractions with like denominators, just add the numerator. 4 and 3 gives me 7/8 for the answer. So you can see the process. You start out with the greatest fraction strip and then keep going down, and you can see 7/8 is the answer. Now I want you to do these next two all by yourself using your fraction strips. When you're finished, you can press play and I will have the answer for you. So pause the video now. Okay, you can see the answers here. We have 9/10 and also 1 and 1/12. Okay, now I know these got a little bunched up down here, but we have our 12ths, the denominator, and the tenths with the denominator here. 1/2 equals 5/10, 2/5 equals 4/10, 3/4 equals 9/12, 1/3 equals 4/12, giving us the answer. Now I want you to complete numbers 5, 6, and 7 all by yourself. I do not have them on here, but I do want you to complete those. When you're finished, you can press play. I will have the answers for you, and also use your fraction strips to find the sum. So pause the video now. 5, 6, and 7. Okay, here are the answers. We have 7/10, 1/3, and 4/5. Now I want you to work through this test prep problem. When you are finished, you can press play. I will have the answer for you. So pause the video now. Okay, here's the answer, letter D. And going over the essential question, how can you use models to add fractions that have different denominators? And you can see the answer right underneath. So this concludes the video on addition with unlike denominators. If you have any questions about this concept, please come and see me.